West.
Good evening. I call this meeting to order at 7 o'clock. Please rise and join for the Pledge of Allegiance if you're able. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And we have a roll call, please.
Johnson.
Here.
Kelly.
Here.
Mikulski.
Here.
Polika. Here. Leak-Smith.
Here. Now approval of the agenda.
I move we approve the agenda as presented.
Or
Johnson.
Yes.
Kelly. Mikulski.
yes.
Polika. Yes. Leak-Smith.
Yes. Looks like have a presentation. Presentation for where's our?
Well, it looks like they might still be outside with showing off the fire truck, so we might want to come back.
Move on
them.
to DDA.
All right. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm here tonight, Jenny Beaker, Executive Director of Downtown Development Authority in Ferndale, to talk about a grant that we have received from Oakland County for placemaking in public spaces to be incorporated in the downtown. We are referring this largely to as the Streetscapes or Sidewalk Grant Program. So going back where we started and how we got to now, going back to June of 2022, there was an initial application for an MEDC revitalization and placemaking proposal that was originally for $650,000 from the DDA with $350,000 funds from the City of Ferndale for a total of $1 million requested matching funds from MEDC. That was not selected for funding. Last year, through Main Street Oakland County, there was a consortium of communities that put together a consolidated larger proposal for Oakland County that was along the similar guidelines for $450,000 from the Downtown Development Authority for $450,000 in matching funds from MEDC through the RAP proposal. That was also not selected. However, Main Street Oakland County recognizes the need and the benefit that these kinds of programs give in communities. So the Oakland County Board of Commissioners made it work for Oakland County downtowns. They have put together some of the ARPA funding that can be earmarked for public spaces, recognizing the benefit that serves to the public. It is, for outdoor placemaking, health, being able to walk around, being able to enjoy your downtown, the quality of life that this brings, and it meets the guidelines for ARPA funding and the public interest. So the award for this was $292,000 in funds from Oakland County to be met with $438,000 from the DDA. And then we also have another $50,000 that has been committed by the City of Ferndale for parking purposes in the wayfinding that I'm going to talk about. So why are we prioritizing sidewalks and wayfinding in downtown? If you've been out any time in the last few years, you've noticed that we get a lot of wear and tear on our sidewalks. These are some examples where we've noted that the unevenness and the cracks, they can create tripping hazards. If you use any kind of mobility device, the next thing, the inconsistencies, all of these, the quality of these sidewalks impair the mobility of people downtown, whether you're walking, whether you're pushing a stroller, whether you need a mobility aid. If you just, happen to not look down, you can trip. And this is a liability for the businesses and property owners who are responsible for these sidewalks. So we recognize, though, that with the cost of sidewalks and construction and so many things going up, this is an opportunity where the DDA can earmark this funding and give back to the community in a way that also benefits the businesses. In addition, for the wayfinding, the last structures that you see downtown were designed going back to 2010. A lot of technology has changed since then. Most people have smart technology in their pocket in a way that they didn't have, 15 years ago. So with this, there's currently like a little bit of a digital divide and a little bit of a digital setback on these, because the wayfinding devices, if they're, powered with electricity or lighting, they don't always work. It can be a really static listing of our businesses and things that people might want to be finding in the downtown, but then also, like how will somebody read it? What's the way that somebody is going to be receiving information and trying to navigate downtown? So we want to make sure that this is able to be updated easily in a way that's meaningful for people, and also in a way that can be easily legible for folks, that we have the right size wording, that we have the right kind of information if people are looking for what to do in downtown Ferndale or how to get around. So on the whole, there's really kind of four components to this project. First and foremost, we want to gather community input, and actually we will be gathering community input now that it's been funded. So in this quarter, between October and December, the DDA will be issuing a request for proposals for an architectural design firm to help with the community feedback sessions of what do people want for wayfinding, what might our kind of downtown new brand look like for downtown Ferndale, how are we going to determine what people want to see and how it's going to be meaningful for them. This will come up with a design and installation plan for the wayfinding signs, including things like, which parking lot are you in? How do you know where the dot is? How do you know to get from the dot to other businesses? And really getting around downtown Ferndale. So we think this is going to be a more pleasant experience for folks if they're new coming into Ferndale, or if they're visiting and looking for something, especially during our special events and holidays and whatnot. Once that is advanced on, we will be removing the majority of the brick pavers on 9 Mile. The focus of this scope is going to be limited to 9 Mile, but it will include east and west 9 Mile. But this will mean that those brick pavers that are in largely disrepair, they go back, I think, more than 30 years at this point, most of them, those are going to be removed, and then any flags of concrete, the big squares that are damaged enough that they cannot be repaired, those will be removed and then replaced with fresh concrete, and will give it an overall nicer, more consistent feel of the concrete downtown. We are also looking to do any sort of small-scale structural changes that we can do, seeing if there are inclines, or if there is a lack of a ramp in certain sections. This is really challenging because it may require for us to remove more flags than we would have planned for. So we are looking at this, and we'll be looking at it further with our engineering firm, what's possible given the budget that we have for this. But if it's something that we can't do now, we can at least make a plan to make that experience, for people getting things from the roadway up onto the sidewalks more friendly. So overall, we're really excited about this because we think it is going to invite more visitors into our pedestrian spaces. Walking around downtown Ferndale is just really nice with the art, with the shops that we have, before, after dinner and drinks. It's a really good experience. We want to encourage people to come out and enjoy that and to do it safely. We don't want people to be afraid of, whatever reason that they might fall or trip if they've got a family member coming who has accommodations, that they are at risk for falling in downtown Ferndale. We don't want the businesses to have to worry about that. So we are just really excited about how this will be more inviting and encouraging for folks to use downtown Ferndale year-round. Overall, we're also excited for this to bring in a new, fresher version of downtown Ferndale, getting some updated aesthetics. We are looking actually for a fresh new downtown Ferndale. We're also looking at 100 years of Ferndale. So we are excited about the centennial coming up in ways that we might incorporate that with a little bit of our Ferndale history, but with a very future-looking approach. So as far as what this looks like for the timeline, the wayfinding RFP that I mentioned is going to be issued in October, is our hope. We expect this is going to take about 11 to 12 weeks, roughly 3 months to get that out, to give firms enough time to bid on it and for us to make a selection. Our hope is that we'll be able to accomplish that by the end of this calendar year in 2024. That would allow us to start the community engagement sessions going in January, February, accommodating for some weather and giving people a reason to get out and come come tell us about what they want to see when the weather gets better. But we will be highly promoting those opportunities because we really want feedback from residents, from people who visit frequently, from people who work here. If you're out and about downtown, you're one of our stakeholders. We want to hear from you. That will keep us on schedule, though, to refine the concept for what we want to do and what it'll look like, including the design of the wayfinding, where the installation sites will be, and what kind of technology and configuration that might require. But we'll be finalizing that in the second calendar quarter. That will also be roughly timed with our RFQ that's going to be going out for the construction firm to do that. So Giffords and Webster will be supporting us on that. We estimate it'll take between 13 to 14 weeks just to get all of that scope done, including some of the things like the sign fabrication and then the installation sites. But that will put us on schedule to have the actual work done in late fall. Our goal here is to time the active construction on 9 Mile after our festival season. So we want to make sure that we're not interrupting people who are going to be out and about throughout the summer months. But we also have to make sure that gets timed before it's too late in the winter. But we expect there should only be about like 6 to 8 weeks of active construction with these. It'll be a lot different than something like Woodward Moves that, was a completely different project. But this will allow us to accommodate some of the business needs, the downtown schedule, and then just making sure that we're giving the businesses enough notice that, hey, your sidewalk is going to be disrupted for a few days around these times, but here's what you're getting afterward. So on the whole, we're just really, really excited about this. It's a great opportunity for us to re-engage with residents and stakeholders. We really, again, want to hear more from folks who we know enjoy our downtown and can give us more insight on what they want to see and how they want to get around in downtown. We're especially grateful to Main Street Oakland County for their advocacy in letting the Board of Commissioners know, hey, the downtowns, the collection of downtowns that we have in Oakland County are nationwide outstanding. So the Main Street Oakland County support for this initiative and their advocacy with the county has been tremendous in making this funding available for us. We are especially grateful for our partners at the City of Ferndale who have helped in this design. They've answered some technical questions and given us some planning insights. So it's a great sounding board for us to bring this as the DDA through the City of Ferndale, and of course it wouldn't be possible without support of council as well. We have been in contact with the Accessibility and Inclusivity Advisory Commission, and that has also been really tremendous. They have given us some great insights about what people need for sidewalks, even things that we thought, well, this might look nice, but what looks nice and what works well may not be the same. So that's been really, really good to have their input to make this ultimately what we think is going to be a better project overall. And certainly, again, all of our downtown stakeholders. So we want people to enjoy downtown Ferndale.
Thank you, Jenny. It's always important to know, I love how you brought up how the partnerships, because it's just wonderful, the partnerships that we can have with other organizations, including city, DDA, what can come about from it. I'm excited to see the new project and how more accessible it will be for our patrons downtown. So thank you for always moving the DDA forward and doing such a great job.
Thank you. On behalf of the DDA board members, we thank you for your selection through council and as mayor and previous mayors for appointing some great folks to work with us.
Through the chair. So could you explain in a little more detail where the $438,000 is going to be coming from? Some people might not be aware of how DDA collects their money and might be wondering, is it coming out of the general fund, for example?
Great question, and thank you. It's something that we often get asked about. So our DDA general fund balance is a diversion. It's a tax increment financing model that comes from the property taxes within a downtown district. So we have a designated TIF, tax increment finance district, that is what most people would consider pretty much from Bermuda to Livernois and up to Breckenridge and down to Saratoga. So there's really the core downtown. The property taxes that are collected from there, instead of going to the City of Ferndale, are diverted to the DDA to manage those. So over the years, we balance, we keep a budget, that budget is approved by council, and we have been building this fund balance in a way that we can apply towards larger scale projects like this. So this has been possible due to the work of previous boards and how they have managed some of those funds, saving up for an opportunity like this. So it's a great example of where, waiting and being strategic, we're able to match that with more funding, and we're really excited about what it's going to do to, again, bring more attention and other funding opportunities to us. So this will be hopefully the first of quite a few larger scale projects that we're looking to do over the next 3 to 5 years.
Thank you so much.
Any questions for DDA Director?
Through the chair, I only have one question. The curbs along the sidewalks, will those also be repaired during this project?
Not the majority of the curbs. So there is a plan for the street overall to be redone in the next, I think it's 2027. But where we have some of the things like if there is extensive damage and we need to replace part of that, like especially the sidewalk around it. But for the most part, I don't think we're going to be touching most of the curbs.
Okay.
I just want to say thank you for your hard work on this. It's long overdue, and I'm super excited.
Thank you.
And I just want to thank you for keeping the Ferndale Accessibility and Inclusion Commission as a core participant in this. It's super important to me, and it's super important to us as a council that downtown Ferndale be welcoming, but also inclusive. And that means for folks with all kinds of accessibility needs. So thank you for that and for your hard work.
And one other plug, we will be arranging for sidewalk clearance this winter. So that is something that, again, we see that as something that would otherwise fall to the individual businesses to do. And that's something that they don't always have the time or resources to attend to, given different schedules. And also, if one person is really attentive, just like a neighbor, you don't want to have somebody who's discouraged from visiting you because of what the sidewalk looks like in front of your neighbor. So we realize this, that as a downtown collectively, we can leverage resources like this to do more for the general public and make it a really inviting space for them to use year-round.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great. And our chief is back. Okay. We will now go on to the presentation of the operational report for from the Ferndale Fire Department.
Sorry for my tardiness. People were, checking out the new truck. So.
Excused.
A good reason, right? So welcome. Thank you for having me tonight, and I'm really looking forward to. I was asked to do kind of a mini annual report, and what I decided to do is kind of call it more of an operations report. And there's a lot of things about the fire department that most people don't understand or know. And there's some changes in some House bills and Senate bills that have impacted how we're funded, revenue received, and I figured it would just be really good to go over that, and then also kind of highlight overall everything that our fire department does for the communities it serves, and hopefully answer some questions people have, and then any questions you may have when we're done. We're going tonight. I always like to start with the agency overview. Our fire department provides fire and EMS services. We are a full-time career fire department that provides advanced life support, ambulance transport services. We are the ALS ambulances for our community, and we serve Ferndale, and I realize there was a typo on this, I didn't catch it before, I apologize. Ferndale, Pleasant Ridge, and Royal Oak Township. So we are the fire department for all three of those communities, and I'll touch on that a little bit more as we get into this. Our fire department structure, you see our org chart on the right there. We have 2 fire stations, one on each side of Woodward and also the railroad tracks. That's really important for operations and responses to ensure that when people call 911, we can get there in a really good timely manner. We do have 26 sworn personnel. That includes myself and the fire marshal in that number. And we have a minimum staffing of 6 a day before it triggers overtime that keeps 2 engines and an ambulance staffed in the city. If we have 8 people working, the second ambulance goes in service and that is staffed. That is the priority as far as how staffing goes. Our current fleet has 4 fire engines. You saw our brand new engine out there tonight, and the one that it is replacing parked in front of it. And that's a 1996 engine that will go out of our fleet. And the reason we have 4 fire engines, You have the frontline fire engine, one at each fire station, you have to have a backup. So if that engine breaks down, it needs preventive maintenance service, any of those things to keep it running right, you need something else put in place so we can maintain services. But also if we have a larger scale incident, our rigs are out, it allows us to have those backup engines to call back people to maintain services for any other emergencies that happen during that time and still have staff in the city. We are part of Oakway. It's a mutual aid group. There's 11 departments in Oakway, and those are their badges on the side. What it does is it increases the resources we have without increasing a huge financial draw in our community to buy the things that we have access through being a part of Oakway without paying for it ourselves. This also allows us to have the specialty response teams such as hazmat, all the tech rescues, confined space, collapse, rope rescue, all those as part of this team, and we collectively, between our 11 departments, pool our members. We have peer support to take care of the mental health of our responders when we have those really bad days, and on and on. So we also have shared resources like forcible entry props, a lot of different things that would cost us if I bought it individually, a significant amount of money, and we pool our money together through our dues every year and buy them collectively and share and move it around. We have special response trailers that we have staged around. We house one here in Ferndale. So if we have, again, a specialty response, a hazmat response, we have resources coming, again, without us having to independently have to maintain all this equipment and have all the costs. So that is a huge benefit for our community, and it's phenomenal. We train together, we pull the resources for that, money from the state, and so our return on investment on this is tenfold. I think also people don't always understand everything the fire department does. We do a lot more than just putting out fires. This is the categories of all the different types of calls that we run on, from fires to rescue and EMS, specialty responses, severe weather, and sometimes that can be very taxing. This year wasn't as bad as last year. And some people may realize last year, if anybody remembers that storm in August of 2023, our small fire department ran 124 calls in a 24-hour period. So it was like truly divide and conquer and run. Hazardous conditions could be carbon monoxide alarms, different gas releases, anything that's not like a fire but it's created a potentially hazardous environment. Service calls, whether it's assisting the police, assisting somebody else, somebody stuck in an elevator, a variety of things there. Good intent calls, false alarm or false calls, on and on. You think about any of the strange circumstances that could happen, and people call 911 expecting either police or fire to come and fix it. So we have to truly train and be prepared for just about everything. So that's why my firefighters train pretty much every day. I think Sunday's the only day of the week that they may or may not train. Otherwise, when they come to work, they're doing some type of training on some topic all along. So, because we have a lot we have to stay advised about. On the other side, we want to not just respond to emergencies, we want to make our community safer and teach people how to be safer and prevent a lot of these negative outcomes. So this is just kind of some headings, again, of our fire prevention and community risk reduction activities that we do as a fire department. The home safety inspections, we have made that virtual, to make it much more accessible to everybody in our community and even beyond our boundaries. Hands-only CPR training, we provide to the community. We actually just provided hands-only CPR at Withington for the Housing Commission residents. School fire safety programs. I'm happy to announce I just met with Oak Park's public safety director and talked to the schools. We're going to partner with them to still do fire safety education in our elementary schools, even though they are technically in Oak Park now. So we will be in the schools for K through 5 doing fire safety education, which I'm super excited about. Senior fire safety programs, we've been in Withington, our Housing Commission, reaching out, doing more and more to engage the different populations in our community. The inspections, plan reviews, various other community outreach, whether we're at festival staffing and passing on information or having open houses or just all the different ways we reach out to try to educate our community. And our smoke detector program, we do participate in the state's free smoke detector program. So if somebody needs a smoke detector in their home, we will come out and install it for free, as long as you own the home. If you rent, it's your landlord's responsibility. But this is just some of the stuff. So you might say, well, why do we do this? This seems like a lot to ask of our fire department. And you might say, some of these things seem like they might be expensive and a drain. This is why we do it. These are statistics for the state of Michigan for the first half of this year, January through June. And 60 people have already died in 58 house fires in this, just the state of Michigan. This is a decrease from some previous years, but there's decrease in deaths, but increase in fires. There's 2 that had multiple people, but the bottom left one, only 19% of homes were reported to have working smoke alarms. Working smoke alarms truly do save lives. That's why we participate in that program. That's why my firefighters would go out and install smoke alarms in homes, because not everybody understands how many they should have, where they should have them, how to check them, how to test them, which ones are the right ones. Why when that one keeps going off when you're cooking dinner, why you shouldn't just like take it off or take the battery out because it's annoying. But which one is the right one to have near the kitchen? That's where that home safety inspection that we turned virtual, that people could do for free, helps educate you. So it'll tell you, do you have enough in your house? Do you have it in the right place in your house? And anybody who does a home safety inspection, we call it our virtual CRR, they get a customized resources at the end of that to help you know all the different things to make your home as safe as it can be. And sometimes there's hazards you never realized was a hazard. And again, this is prevention. We want to stop you from having a negative situation. Also, the top 3 fatal fire causes are heating, so space heaters and improper heating, smoking, and explosions. And the top 3 areas of origin so far this year has been in the living room, and then the kitchen and the bedroom. So we know the smoke alarms save lives. We want to change the batteries every year. There's some that are good for 10 years, but you want to know if you get a new smoke detector, put the date on there. When does it need to be replaced? So this is for the state of Michigan this year. There's been 5,789 homes visited and over 22,000 smoke detectors installed in homes in the state of Michigan. I think we're a part of this, and I think it's amazing, and it's something I always want to continue for our communities. But that's why we do all those other things that we do. So some of the other things that have come before our council, I think it's important to highlight some of the initiatives and programs we've talked about here that council has gotten behind and what that is translating to. So the first one is council did a resolution for the GEMT. It's the House Bill 5696 that went in front of council. And then right now, I believe it's in committee, but this will bring more revenue, more reimbursement for Medicaid calls that we run on, and I have numbers to show you. We did run the program to get an estimate of what that would translate for our community. I'll get to that in a moment. I wrote the grant to get us EMS workforce grant. We know we have a workforce shortage for fire and EMS, and we can all sit around and talk about the problem, or we could be part of the solution. So Ferndale decided to be part of the solution. Wrote and got this grant, and we have 6 people that we're sponsoring to go to paramedic school through this grant. They get their tuition paid for, and they make $15 an hour while they're in school. And happy to say we have 6 people moving along. All 6 of those want to work for us. I just don't have the spot for them right now. But we're contributing to a solution to the problem. We're putting more qualified workforce or people into the workforce, which I think is amazing for us to be able to say we're a part of that. So we're addressing this shortage of EMS personnel. Our ladder truck, council approved for me to sell the ladder truck. We had this phenomenal resource sitting in our station that was underutilized because of our staffing model, because of our community, and it being the right fit or us being able to use it to its full capability. So I did sell it to Pittsfield Township Fire Department where they needed it, so it fit a critical need for them. And the revenue from that, or the proceeds from that, was moved over to purchase a new Quint that we'll see in 3.5 years. We know we have a fire engine that was due to be replaced in 3 years. So it came to council, and council agreed that it made sense. It was a good fiscal responsible move for the community to replace 2 vehicles with 1. So instead of buying a new engine and a new ladder truck, we bought just 1 vehicle that's essentially going to do the jobs of both and save the city approximately $2 million. And this is just a preview of the right sizing we're trying to do to keep up with consider the master land use plan for the city, look ahead proactively, and ensure we have the equipment we need to do the responses and protect the community as it's going to evolve. The virtual CRR talked about, that is the home fire safety inspection that's turned virtual. Again, it's free. You can get the link from the website, the city's website, if you go to the fire department page. And it's super easy to walk through. You can stay anonymous, so know that you don't have to put in your full address, your name or anything. But the great thing is, if you take that and then you have questions, right through it, you can send a message to our fire department and say, hey, after doing this, I would like you to come out. Can you schedule a time to come out to my house? Or I realize I don't have enough smoke detectors. Can you come out? Or we have people that say, hey, I have a question, and they can send it right through there. So it really increases accessibility when people may feel a little timid about calling the fire department and not sure if they should. And we want to make ourselves more accessible to our community. And then the smoke detector program, I already talked about and showed you statistics, and we've given out just about everything we have, and we got to contact the state to get a new supply. So it is benefiting our community. So GEMT House Bill 5695, I have this on here just to touch on it. Again, you guys got behind a resolution to support this for the state. I believe it's in the committee right now. That website there is where anybody can go to get more information to understand this. But essentially what it does is it brings more federal funds into the state to increase the reimbursement level of ground emergency transport for Medicaid patients. So when you take care of a critical call for somebody who's on Medicaid, right now our reimbursement is not very high, and this increases the amount that we get reimbursed because they're realizing the cost of providing services aren't matching the cost of what we're being paid for those services. But one of the biggest things, this already exists in some other states, so this is not something brand new. We're just trying to bring it into Michigan. It doesn't exist in Michigan yet. But one of the benefits they're seeing, as everything gets more expensive, we think about going to the grocery store. And just buying groceries you've bought before is costing a lot more to just get the things that you need. And the same thing is for fire and EMS and police and so much for other stuff. So try to keep up with our fleet, maintain our facilities, do training, recruit and retain personnel. It gets harder and harder because the cost of doing business is going up. What this program does is it helps bring more money and revenue in to help ease the burden on the community and the general fund budget to allow us to do these things and, have some assistance with that. So that's the biggest benefit of this that I've heard from talking to other communities that have done it. The other thing, just so you're aware, one of the pushbacks, the state has a current program we call it the QAP, which is Quality Assurance Assessment Program. In 2018, they raised Medicaid rates by 20% for us, which sounds great. The way this program works is every fire department that provides EMS or every EMS agency is charged for every single EMS call they go on, regardless of the insurance or no insurance that the person has. So as of right now, they just raised the rate to $3.32 per transport. So if I have 1,000 transports this year, multiply that. I will tell you quarterly, our bill for this is about $1,100, between $1,100 and $1,200 is what we pay the state. And what it is they charge everybody for every single transport you have, you pay this rate, and in return, you have a 20% increase in what you were being reimbursed for any of the Medicaid. So for communities that have very low payer mix of people with Medicaid insurance, they pay a lot more out than they get back. And others that have others, it's not an equal thing. So you're paying and you may or may not reap the benefits of it. So this is our payer mix for this year. This does vary from year to year, but year to date, this is what, for the EMS calls that have been billed and reconciled by our billing company, this is who we have served so far this year. Our Medicaid is about 25%. And I want to show, this is how the changes happened for the last couple of years. So you can kind of see where they stay a little consistent, but there has been some variations. The Medicaid in 2022 is about 22%, went down to 19, and is back up to almost 25. So it does vary from time to time. So you can see when we're down at 20%, but we're paying for 100% of the transports, but only 20% of the calls are getting a 20% increase. You can see sometimes it can take things out of balance where we might be paying more for the program. The GEMT does not have that pay up front part. It just increases the reimbursement that comes to the provider. So what does that mean? The estimate for Ferndale is $275,000 a year. If GMT passes up in state legislature and gets adopted here in the Michigan, this is additional revenue that we will see here in the community as approximate based on the call volume we've had up to this point. And so that you could see where this could have a huge impact in lighting the load and helping us keep up with these rising costs. The new engine that was outside today, we showed a ton of due diligence in speccing that and designing that. And the price tag was $680,000 roughly, which some places are like, how did you buy a Pierce for? They thought we got a really good deal. That's a lot of money. I asked the vendor, if I took that same exact order and placed it again today, 2 years later, that's, and I presented this before, it's over $1 million. It's a 40% increase in 2 years. It's hard for communities to keep up with that. That's where the benefit of this comes in. If this passes in the state of Michigan, it's going to help communities like ours and others to keep up with those rising costs without, you know, having to keep passing up by changing our fee schedule so much to our citizens and the people that are getting our services. So again, this is, if you ask what is our revenue, I pulled this from our billing company, and this is a report they give me. So you can see from 2020, 21, 22, and 23, this is year-end numbers. So you see our gross charges. Contractuals is, you know, if you go to the doctor and you get your statement, it says the doctor charged this much, and then you see how much is kind of like the insurance write-off, and then what the insurance is going to pay. That's what contractuals is. That's that part that we won't collect because that's part of the contract of what they're saying, no, I know you billed me this much, but our price is this much. That contractual is the middle part. Okay? And then you see what we've at the bottom, and then the average recovery per run they, you know, do out. But you see the total run volume is increasing every year. In 2020, it was 757. 2023, it's over 1,500. Our Fire Marshal Division also has revenue sources. These are all the different things that he does that has a bill that goes along with it. So a lot of it is, again, for the safety, the prevention, holding people accountable to fire code and supporting building code to make sure that our buildings, our homes, our residences are done safely. But our business license permits, our fire alarm inspections, our plan reviews, all these things generate a fee, and it's on the fee schedule that is on the city's website. So this is our call volume. And one of the things, I know people ask me questions. Like I said, we are a fire department for 3 communities. Yes, we are the Ferndale Fire Department, but we are also the fire department for Pleasant Ridge and Royal Oak Township. And people have questions about that. They do pay us. They have a contract with the city, and that cost of the contract does go up annually. But this is a breakdown. So the first one that says Ferndale underneath it, that is the total call volume year to date that our fire department as a whole has done. So we've had over 1,900 calls when this was pulled, so it's actually higher now, but over 1,900 calls, 49 of those were fires of some sort, over 1,300 were EMS. You see hazardous conditions, severe weather, and then other. And then you can see how many of those for Pleasant Ridge and Royal Oak Township broken down into those same categories. So when people say, okay, they're paying us to be their fire department, and right now people wonder, hey, how much of the bill are we holding? Are they doing an even part of the bill? Each of those communities pays us approximately $300,000 a year. It's just a rough number because it goes up, but that's a rough number where they both are right now. And this is how much in comparison. The rest of those calls are not for them, of the 1,900. So only about 200, about 10% of our calls is for those 2 communities combined. The rest is for us or other neighboring communities. So if that kind of helps put it into perspective as far as the bill and sharing the load and all those things. In 2023, here's the same call volume to see where they tracked last year as compared to where they're tracking this year, year to date. And you see kind of a similar pattern of where this at. Now, I think it's also important to point out that Pleasant Ridge gets mirror image services. So what we provide, City of Ferndale, we provide Pleasant Ridge. They get everything that you do. Royal Oak Township contracts us only for the fire side of our services. So we are not their EMS provider. So our EMS does not respond there unless their ambulance provider that they contract with is not available. Then they'll call us for mutual aid on more high acuity calls. So I think it's also important to identify that so people understand what we provide to these different communities. I want to finish with kind of talking about our current status on some things and in-process goals. So our staffing right now is down to only 1 vacancy, And we did an interview this morning. I extended a conditional job offer, which was accepted by someone who's a firefighter paramedic coming from Detroit Fire Department who wants to make the transition to our community. Very, very good candidate, very excited to have him on board, and he did accept. If he onboards successfully, that will fill our final vacancy. In comparison, when I took over as fire chief, a third of our department was vacant. We had 8 vacancies. And so this is a huge accomplishment that we should be proud of. And the reputation our fire department has is why this happened. Our diversity has increased, our vacancies have decreased, we just got phenomenal people. This is something to be proud of. The 4 of the EMTs I have that I hired and that are in current staffing are, in paramedic school, which, taxes us with staffing. Sometimes we have to excuse them for school. They're in their final phase right now. They take their final exam December 1st, and we'll be testing for the National Registry either December or January. So it'd be 4 additional paramedics, and the other one will be finishing in June of next year. We have the 6 individuals in our workforce grant, which most of them want to work for us, but those are also 6 individuals we're getting to know. They're getting to know us, and if we get vacancies, we can consider them first because we already have those connections to fill those vacancies. So we're kind of starting to create this streamline of potential candidates to fill vacancies, which is phenomenal. Our fleet, you saw outside today, our new fire engine arrived just about 2 weeks ago. Should be in service this fall. It's a process. I have to train my entire fire department on the operations of it. We got to get all the equipment on it, get the licensing on it, and the cool thing, I don't know if everybody knows, this engine brings a new capability to our community we've never had before. So everybody knows about firefighting foam, the PFAS, and everything goes with it. That's the Class B foam we'd use for combustible liquid fires. This engine has Class A foam, which will be used on house fires and ordinary combustible fires. And the early research shows that using Class A foams on fires encapsulates a lot of the toxins in the air and pulls them out of the air and makes the air cleaner faster, so reduces our exposure to all the bad stuff that firefighters have an increased occurrence of cancers. So that's a cool thing. So it's a big training because it's a new capability, a new tactical weapon we have to attack a lot of the emergencies and the incidents we have. So that's exciting. Our new ambulance was ordered first, but there's been delay after delay after delay in whether it be the chassis or whatever in the automotive side of the house. Still hoping for a 2024 delivery. We're pushing for that, so we should have it before the end of the year. And we keep trying to fight our way ahead of other orders, but unfortunately, I only have so much control in that. Both the new engine and the new ambulance, when it gets here, will be going to Fire Station 2, which is down by Hilton. And we built them specifically to fit all our apparatus to fit our current fire stations. So everything we have on order, even the new Quint, is designed to fit in our current stations. So that goes to the last point, is all of our apparatus are being purposely designed to focus on not only our current facilities, but the needs of our community, our operations, to ensure we're right sizing, right equipment to make us increase our efficiency and effectiveness for our operations with our staffing model and considering the master land use plan and where the city of Ferndale is going with development. I will end there if anybody has any questions.
I just have a question regarding the 6 in the workforce grant program. You said that you mentioned how they're getting to know you and you're getting to know them. Can you tell me how are they involved right now with you, even though they're not employed?
Yeah, so with the workforce grant, because what the grant allows us to do is we essentially onboard them to the city of Ferndale in part-time status, just so we can do a paycheck and facilitate the grant money funneled through us to them. We pay for their tuition, we pay them $15 an hour while they're in school. So it was phenomenal because it removed so many barriers to be able to go to school. With that, they did orientation with us. We open the station for study groups. They do check-ins monthly with my EMS coordinator. Sometimes they'll call me and request, hey, Chief, can I come in and just sit down and talk to you for a minute? Or some of the other people. So we build that if they have questions. Hey, I want to know, has anything changed? Or I want to pick your brain about something. So they really seen us as a resource and then just really trying to support them to be successful through paramedic school to the amount we can without creating like a lot of extra cost under the city. So I try to stay within the parameters of the grant and offer what we can without, creating a lot of extra expenses for the city.
Any other questions, comments? Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
Looks like it was a good turnout out there today.
Yeah, it was awesome seeing everybody.
I do have one quick question. How long have you been the chief? You talked about all the different changes that you've made.
Yeah, so I got sworn in February 1st of 2021, so like 3.5 years.
That's awesome. Good work in that
It's been a
short
big
time.
team effort. I like to take credit for everything, but it's not just me alone, it's my whole team.
Thank you.
So we're now coming to the portion of the agenda where we have call to audience. If you would like to speak on something on or off the agenda, you have 3 minutes to do so right at the podium. Please state your name and address.
I'm Christian Bandemer, 1692 Jarvis. I'm glad we're having this discussion because I want to talk about the sidewalks of Ferndale. I lost my job, so I ride my bike in an effort to save fuel, save money, and save the planet. The worst part of Ferndale to ride your bike on, if you're ever even fathoming, is that terrible 7-Eleven at 9 Mile Road in Hilton. The parking lot is destroyed. Anyone wants to go ride a bike with me there, we'll ride on, there's not even a sidewalk there, it's just potholes and clumps. You have to take the bike lane, which diverts and puts you in the middle of the street, which is scary. That's terrible. I want to just say that they need to be fined right away. They're awful. And they have money to pay to fix their lot. There's no excuse for that. They need to do better. The next thing I want to say, I took a header on my bike on Sunday. The new bike lanes are phenomenal. They're gorgeous. They're great. I love them on Woodward. But I have no depth perception because I'm losing my vision. And where the curves are, they need to be painted. Councilperson Mikulski said we need to do something about the curves. Well, if you can't, I'm talking just the curve parts of the bike lane. They need to be painted where people can see it because it's all new. You can't judge it, so you can go straight and go over and tip to the side. Thank God I wore my helmet. It wasn't fun. And the other part in Ferndale that's absolutely terrible to ride your bicycle at is the Viaduct 8 Mile Road in that where trolls live under that bridge. I mean, that's scary. You don't know what kind of glass, you don't know what's in there. There's no lights, there's nothing. That is a nightmare. That's all that I really have to say. But, you know, I'm glad we talked about safety of sidewalks and stuff. I mean, you know, we just have to pay attention to the business owners neglecting on 8 Mile Road. I mean, I've been cut by metal before sticking out into there, tree branches, you know, and same thing, public streets. Wanda, West End, Wanda especially, the people don't cut their trees. You have to cut your trees for pedestrians. It's not good. So I thank you, everyone. That's all I have to say. Appreciate everyone.
Mayor, if I can ask a clarification, you said the viaduct on 8 Mile. Are you talking about the Woodward or the train track
The train
viaduct?
track
The
one.
train track, okay, that's what I thought you were, but I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, the Woodward one is actually all right. You know, you just be mindful of people doing what they have to do to survive, and there's no issues. That's clearly lit. That's pretty open. There's no issues. It's when you're going under, when you can't see the glass.
Yeah, on the train,
And you
the train
can't see
viaduct.
anything. That's terrible there.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman
Thanks,
Pollica.
Christian.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Patrick Burnham, I live at 220 East Troy, so I'm like right over there. I actually had written an email to Laura on this topic the week before last, but it could have been to anyone really. It's to discuss the train crossing at 9 and Hilton. Well, it's really at about 5 different roads, but in that main area. And I'm just going to read the email that I wrote. My goal is simply to inquire about what is being done about the crossing, and in general, holding the users of it responsible when they cause delays at the crossing. Of course, this is a well-known issue that has received much attention over the years, even as far as Senate Bill 124 and 125, led by Senator Darren Camilleri. The issue is also relatively protected by Michigan state law, MCL section 462.391, obstruction of vehicular traffic offenses as separate violations, penalty, and allocation of fines. From the perspective of a resident and one who is affected by this crossing on a daily basis, I'm very interested to know what is being done to improve the situation and what measures of accountability are in place and are being leveraged. I'm not discounting the efforts by the city because frankly they aren't exactly clear or well known enough to analyze one way or the other. It's well understood that this crossing has 3 separate rails, one of which is operated by CN, I'll call them the offender, and the city of Ferndale. Ferndale does not have control over their operations, of course. My question, of course, one of many, does CN have trackage rights that protect them from any enforcement and exclude them from this law? I do not believe that the law stipulates the origin of the locomotive blocking the crossing, but rather the law pertains to the railroad permitting the train. And the crossing is collecting this crossing is a collection of 3 railways. Surely Ferndale has some authority over railroads within its city limits. The law includes fines and allocations of funds, and considering the frequency and duration of these issues, that could be a large chunk of funding that both Ferndale at 15% of the collected fund and a railroad grade crossing safety fund, the remaining 85 could collect. Are we potentially missing a critical opportunity here? Please take this message kindly. It is not meant to be any scathing complaint, but rather an attempt to understand how this is being handled and what can be done to improve it for our city's sake, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Unless there's any questions, I'm all done.
Hi, everyone. I'm Erin Molnar. I am current chair of the Parks and Rec Committee. I take this opportunity to offer my support for the Martin Road Rec facility that's going to be presented later in the agenda. This facility, while not a replacement for our community center, can fulfill several of the community's wants and needs until we can prioritize a true community center. The facility being presented tonight comes directly from the recommendations of the Citizen-Led Facilities Task Force. It includes space for our senior group to meet, handicap parking, adequate restrooms to support our splash pads, storage space for rec equipment, flexible spaces for our community to gather, and modern, efficient, rentable space and concessions that both meet the needs of our citizens and will bring revenue back to Parks and Rec operations. I know the initial design and particularly placement of the building received a lot of feedback and criticism. I agreed with a lot of this, like the importance of sight lines for parents between the playground and splash pad, the need for parking for people with limited mobility, but without encroaching on the park, and the need to protect our mature tree canopy and green space. I have to say that the design team and the city staff have really listened to feedback, given it all the community meetings. They've even added extra community meetings to get feedback, and they've updated the proposed plans to address each and every item. They have landed on a design that captures the needs of the Parks and Rec Department and DPW, the needs and desires of the community, and works within the myriad constraints of the location and different stakeholder priorities. I've seen the proposal presented several times over the course of this planning process, and each time it's gotten more refined and incorporated more and more community input. You'll see in James's presentation that at the end of the process, the vast majority of attendees at the final meeting approved of the proposal. I'm in the majority there, and I think that this plan meets a lot of our needs at this time while taking advantage of currently available grant funding as the catalyst and creating efficiencies and building the different components of the project all at once. I will say in closing, I still encourage the city and citizens to support moving forward with a full community center in the near future. Our community culture is vibrant, it's special, it's why we all choose to live and work and volunteer here. We need facilities that reflect this and meet the needs of our city staff and our residents, and we need to protect them from disinvestment for future generations. Thank you.
Thank you. And I just want to take this opportunity to thank Mayor Pro Tem Mikulski, because on top of everything else she has to do, she did have conversations regarding the plan, and was instrumental in proposing a lot of changes that was community friendly. So I just wanted to give that shout out there. Still open for call to council, a call to audience. All right. With that being said, we will move on to the consent agenda. Item 7A, approval of the September 9th, 2024 meeting minutes. 7B, approval for the Ferndale Police Department to auction and dispose of lost and abandoned property via property room in accordance with local ordinance number 114, 7 through 10, and 29, and state law MCL 434.183. Item 7C, approval to purchase a Ford F-250 truck for the fire department for $54,300 from Suburban Ford of Ferndale to be charged to the account 101-336-940-100, and authorization of the DPW director to execute the agreement. Excuse me. 7D, approval to rent front-end loader from Michigan Cat in the amount of $6,269. 7E, approval of Oakland County Parks Memo of Understanding. 7F, approval to renew the trunk line maintenance agreement with the Michigan Department of Transportation and resolution to designate Director of DPW as Maintenance Superintendent. 7G, approval of the grant agreement with the Institute for Responsive Government. 7H, approval of the Michigan Natural Resources Trust Fund Agreement amendment to extend the deadline to implement planned improvements at Martin Road Park, and authorization of the Parks and Rec Director to sign the agreement. 7I, approval of the submission of the year-to-date revenue expenditure report. 7J, approval to remit payment to the Ferndale schools in the amount of $10,470 for the transportation services rendered during the 2024 summer camp program. 7K, approval of the purchase of a Task Force Master Stream Portable Monitor Package in the amount of $6,075. And 7L, approval of the bills and payrolls as submitted by the Finance Director and subject to review by the Council Finance Committee. We need a motion.
I move we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Or?
Johnson?
Yes.
Kelly?
Yes.
Mikulski?
Yes.
Polka?
Yes.
Leaks-May?
Yes. And with that being said, we're moving on to regular agenda, item 8A, Martin Road Recreational Facility Concept Design Presentation.
Thank you, Mayor. Just take a quick second here, get the slideshow up. All right. So here we are. We've been working on this project a while. James Grzan, Assistant City Manager, with me. Matthew Smith from Newman Smith Architects. Just a quick bit of context here, the origin story, if you will, for the Martin Road Recreation Facility. The resident-led facilities task force identified a need for the city to have a city-controlled recreation facility. We wanted to restore some of the community functions that we used to host at the Kulik Center. They identified the need for some concessions, expanded restrooms to support the new splash pad. And they specifically noted that Martin Road Park would be the best location for this, of course. That's where the splash pad is. Around the same time, we're in the middle of a pandemic. And there were unprecedented federal and state funding support for various local recreation. The 2021 return of federal earmarks, ARPA, but most of these required site control, ownership of the area, and also a reference from a community plan. Thankfully, we had that with the facilities task force, and we have that at Martin Road Park. And so through all this, we were awarded about $2.1 million in competitive grants for Martin Road Recreation Facility. So timeline here, we had the resident-led facility task force. Congressman Levin got us about $704,000 in earmark funds. We were able to leverage connections at the state legislature to get $500,000 in funding. And then the MDNR awarded us about $883,000 in a Spark grant to help us through their ARPA funds. And just a reminder, ARPA funds have to be obligated, which means there is a contract in place to spend them by the end of this calendar year. So that's kind of why the timing of this project has happened as it has. We're looking at a much bigger facility than $2.1 million. And with that, we are going to require additional funding, most likely through municipal bonds. And we've worked it out a little bit. $7 million, we're looking at about $515,000 in annual debt service payment, which would work out to about 0.54 mils. So the average impact on a house with $125,000 in taxable value would be $67.50 every year. So quick look at what would be paying for what, because these grant funds are restricted in what we can pay for. The grant funds have to go for this support facility, which would be a concession building with restrooms. It can help cover some of the site amenities, the landscaping, parking, some of the walking paths, and utilities. However, the other funding can cover much more. So we could do an indoor-outdoor flexible event space. We can do flexible activity rooms. We can have that lounge space, that community living room kind of a feel. And with that, we've spent time putting together a project with a total budget of just over $9 million. So just right where we've been hoping to be. Quick touch on the project, and a huge shout out to our project team. We had James Jameson, Lorena Wheeler, Jen and Carrie from Parks and Rec Commission, Alan, the chair of our Accessibility and Inclusion Advisory Commission, Krista from Planning, Riley, Robert, myself, Matthew, and everybody else who's given us feedback throughout the last, 4 months now. So we started the project with an internal visioning with that team. Went through brainstorming and visioning with the community, doing a first community engagement session. We went through the initial designs that we presented to the community. We reworked those designs, reworked the site plan, continued to show concept development and the project at community engagement sessions, and ultimately a concept refinement, which we presented at the 4th community engagement session at the end of August. Here just kind of showing a little bit more. And then lastly, on September 18th, last Wednesday, we presented this to the Parks and Rec Commission and got a lot of support from them. And so I'm going to turn it over to Matthew from Newman Smith.
Thank you, James. And as James mentioned, we went through a few both internal as well as community engagement sessions. Those first couple of engagement sessions were more hands-on, where it was more or less a visioning. I mean, what were some aspects of the community that they wanted to see emulated within this project, and some of the key concerns and aspects they wanted to see incorporated within it. Both within the internal visioning as well as the community envisioning, a few items came to the surface, which kind of set up these key principles, including inclusivity, sustainability, being community focused in lieu of a destination, focusing in on sustainability on flexible spaces. Many of these areas and so many of the programmatic elements and spaces that we're creating in this project have to wear multiple hats, whether it be senior programming and youth programming and possible, extracurricular, fitness classes or something like that. But because it had to, satisfy a lot of these requirements, there's a lot of characteristics and a lot of details that had to be looked at within them. In addition, not only because of the grant funding requirements, but also because of the setting and the context within, the largest park within the community, there was this emphasis on blurring the interior and exterior spaces within the project itself. A push for preserving as much of the natural environment and site as possible, as well as ensuring that it was accessible for year-round use. Kind of looking at Marne Road Park as a whole, and you can see the circular area, which is a 300-foot radius around the splash pad in the southeast quadrant of the park. That's really where the requirement is to place this project based on an EGLE requirement for the restrooms to be within a certain proximity of the park itself. Within that same area, you can see it's heavily, there's a lot of mature trees in that area, some of them which have questionable longevity due to whether it be internal rotting or just the maturity of the trees themselves. In our proposal, which I'm going to show in a moment, a couple of those trees would have to be removed on that site. Both of those either have probable or imminent failure based on an arborist that does routine inspections throughout the park and throughout many of the parks within the city. One thing that we did want to address with that is the two trees that would be removed. One of them, a triple trunk tree that has some underlying structural issues, would be replaced with equal caliber trees across the immediate site as well as the park as a whole. So in this case, those three trunk trees, that equal caliber equivalent would be approximately 52 2.5-inch caliber tree replacement across the park. And just from a sense of comparison, you could see the darker green trees in this site plan here. This accounts for approximately half of those 52 trees. As James alluded to, the site placement, we went back and forth on several iterations. Some of them had many advantages and disadvantages. A few things that lended us to, to come up with this final revision and iteration was, one was by relocating the existing playground kind of to the northwest of where the proposed building's shown at this site. That maintains a visual connection between the splash pad as well as the playground. That was a concern in some of the earlier iterations, that by placing a building, if you had a younger family that had, multiple children, there was that concern that you wouldn't be able to monitor both of those children if they were at different locations. In addition, the mobility concern because a senior program would be a component of this project, was the proximity to parking to the building itself. We didn't want to interrupt any more of the existing tree canopies than we had to. One of the advantages of this proposal was by shifting it kind of towards the southeast end of this area, closer to Orchard Avenue, we're able to accommodate parking, particularly handicap parking and a handicap drop-off on Orchard Avenue, so we're not introducing more vehicular circulation throughout the park itself, which obviously has, a detrimental effect on the existing natural conditions as well as potentially some of those existing tree canopies. So we're minimizing that disruption of the existing site. At the same time, we're saving costs by not introducing vehicular travel lanes within the site. We minimize some of our connections to existing utilities and so forth, which more than offset the relocation of that playground to the north. In addition to this placement, the existing parking in the southeast corner of the site is much closer than some of the earlier iterations that we went through. With the blue circle, that's kind of shown as a point of reference. That's a 50-foot radius from the Orchard Avenue entrance. And, you know, looking at some local precedents within the community and, you know, what is, you know, kind of the typical spacing from, you know, that first ADA parking space to the front entrance to some, you know, local grocery stores or the city hall and so forth. And you can see, you know, starting from the upper left, you know, the Western Market on 9 Mile to that first space, 110 feet. The library, depending on if you're approaching it from the west or the east, it's 75 to 80 feet, a little bit shorter if you end up going up the stairs to get access to it. City Hall, you know, to this front door of the City Hall coming from the west parking lot to that first space is 115 feet. And just to the first space, a little bit closer if you're coming from the east lot at 100 feet. But just kind of as a sense of comparison, our recent proposal has 4 parking spaces under 100 feet, with the first one being approximately 55 feet. In the earlier community engagement sessions, we asked, well, what do you want this space, or what spaces do you want to see incorporated within this project? And kind of nailing it down into 4 key areas. We had a larger event space. The thought with that is it would be used for larger banquets, ultimately a flexible use space that could be used for the youth summer programs, larger gathering spaces, possibly indoor movies, performances, health and wellness classes, party rentals for, you know, some revenue generator. On the other end of the spectrum, you know, there was a demand for these smaller rental areas and flexible community rooms. You know, this would be utilized for a combination of senior enrichment programs to youth programming, adolescent programmings, could be rented out for families, for, you know, a children's birthday party because of its proximity to, you know, the playground and the splash pad. In areas like that, ultimately kind of becoming, you know, an extension of some of their local houses in that area. It's predominantly smaller residential homes. So, you know, if they have a family gathering of 20 people or so for a birthday party or something like that, they're not able to necessarily satisfy that, particularly in the winter months within their house. So it gives them a potential extension of, you know, of those homes to, you know, utilize some of these spaces for party rentals. The thought with these flexible community rooms slash meeting spaces would be a 1,200 square foot area that could be subdivided into thirds. So you're able to accommodate, you know, a range of activities ranging from a smaller 10-person gathering up to possibly, you know, 60, 70 person gathering, depending on the specific use and the requirements from that. And then there was another item that kind of came out, was this idea of an informal space, more of a lounge and almost like a community living room, something that wasn't specifically programmed for a use, but ultimately kind of became an extension of that local community to go and kind of lounge around, rather than, you know, have a mixture of possible indoor game opportunities or just lounge spaces, you know, a place where they could congregate and meet with their neighbors. And this was something that was, you know, emphasized for both interior use as well as exterior use, which I'll show in a few moments, you know, as far as some covered porch elements and so forth. So ultimately kind of creating this, making this building become an extension of the community, extension of the existing housing stock. And all of these elements, you know, there's going to be a certain amount of support space that needs to accommodate that. A good portion of that was requirements for restrooms, both for the splash pads as well as the interior uses, kitchens, kitchenettes, concession space, you know, a actual concession sport rental element that allows, you know, the concessions to rent out some sports equipment and so forth during the summer months to some of the other park users, and, you know, activating the surrounding exterior spaces, whether it be covered patios, extensions of all of these events and community meeting rooms kind of flowing out into the surrounding areas, with site amenities, benches, and so forth. Kind of looking at a close-up of the building plan, as shown here, it's approximately 9,800 square foot, organized as a kind of a, two key event areas shown in the purple. The one to the right is that larger event space with covered outdoor patio spaces, you know, on both sides of that. The thought is that this would be, you know, a series of garage doors that allows, you know, that interior space to flow, you know, both into, you know, to the north and the south into some of the park-like settings surrounding it. The area to the purple area to the left, likewise having those community flexible meeting rooms flowing onto a smaller, more intimate, you know, covered patio spaces, you know, overlooking some of the more natural elements to the west of the site. As you approach it from Orchard Avenue to the south, you have that central entrance spine that creates a direct connection from throughout the building back to kind of the playground area, the splash pad area, kind of that signature, you know, old growth tree that's directly there in front of the splash pad as well. And then that's also greeted by, at that front Orchard Lake Avenue, Orchard Road entrance, you also have that front porch, covered porch, you know, for informal gatherings, as well as that community room shown in the green. You know, the teal areas in the middle are restrooms. The ones to the north are focused on exterior use. That's prescriptive to what the splash pad capacity requires. There was an emphasis on introducing 4 single-use restrooms within that space that also doubles as changing areas to make it more inclusive. The interior restrooms shown to the south also have an additional 2 single-use restrooms, one having a adult changing table in it. And then kind of that centralized yellow area is that concessions component with a rental area as well as a catering kitchen to satisfy, you know, that larger event space. Obviously, emphasis on porosity between the interior and exterior spaces, you know, push to kind of separate these 2 event spaces so that you could have multiple events happening simultaneously. And then an overall push on the flexibility of these spaces in order to accommodate, you know, the many uses that were asked by the community. The immediate surrounding landscape adjacent to the site was to be a combination of natural landscape as well as sustainable stormwater retention areas and rain gardens. The thought of this was, you know, kind of minimize the strain of, you know, stormwater and drainage on some of the existing systems, as well as to promote, you know, butterfly and bee habitats and so forth. As you kind of go to the periphery of the site, you know, we kind of introduce some more natural trails and so forth that would have a more minimal impact on the surrounding tree canopies and so forth. And potentially be added to for, you know, a more holistic trail network throughout the park. When we started to ask about preferences from aesthetics, look and feel priorities, and materiality within, you know, the kind of the second and third community engagement meetings, you know, once again, we kind of started off with these physical boards, images, you know, inspirational images to let the community members respond to, you know, what they liked, what they didn't like, with the series of red and green dots. From that, you know, we began to look at aspects that were overwhelmingly approved or asked for by the community members, those being, you know, particular emphasis on covered outdoor spaces, the use of natural materials as opposed to, you know, more man-made materials, kind of giving that sense of warmth, you know, to create, you know, more of a residential character, with both the scale and some of the elements that were implemented on this, 9,800 square foot building, and then also, implementation of certain artwork and creative expressions throughout the project without it necessarily being the overall focus of the project. Design decisions related to materiality were looked at as far as, well, what is the long-term maintenance, what's the durability, what are the sustainability aspects, and cost, both long-term and immediate costs associated with those different materiality aspects. They wanted something that was, durable, so you didn't have, the long-term, maintenance costs associated with it, but also kind of had that more residential character as well. And going to kind of proceed through with series of images of the project. First one, kind of a view looking from Orchard Avenue, where you have, the building kind of divided up into a few different pieces. Some of the earlier surveys we introduced, had a series of clusters of buildings versus, larger buildings. There was a preference to make this building appear to be kind of a clustering, like a camp of smaller buildings, which we, introduced, treated it as a couple of different elements. One focused on, kind of have an expression for the larger event space, for the smaller, flexible community meeting spaces, and then the centralized spine down the middle that would kind of accommodate more of the service areas. Natural wood or full wood materials were introduced at all of the entranceways, as well as the soffit areas underneath, these outdoor gathering spaces and covered patios and so forth. We kind of introduced this green accent element at all the key entranceways, one to identify, those key entrances into this space, and then also kind of tie it to the more creative, character of the community. A lot of emphasis on, more durable materials, for more of a masonry, for kind of the remainder of the areas. And throughout, and then obviously the incorporation of art throughout the project. In this case, at the front door, we introduced a mural on the interior circulation area that's behind some covered glazing. So at night that kind of illuminates and kind of creates a beacon from the space looking from Orchard Avenue. So you have both the interior art expression as well as from the exterior at the night periods. Kind of flipping around to the park view of this area, likewise, murals strategically placed to kind of greet the users. One thing that's unique about this project is it doesn't just have one single entranceway to it. People will be approaching it from cycle, from pedestrian users on the multi-use path, from the north as well as the east, in addition to Orchard Street. So here we have, those murals that are strategically placed at, those entrance points, those key circulation points, as well as at the concessions, which is kind of on the central area of this parkside courtyard. Obviously, an emphasis on a lot of the covered patio spaces. Once again, these green fin elements, identifying some of the main entrance points into the actual building itself, and then the natural landscaping and rain gardens, kind of surrounding this site with the sculptural elements kind of introduced in there. So you have the sculptural gardens kind of surrounding this as well. Additional view looking at that front mural on the Orchard Avenue site. And then as we kind of go throughout the building, once again, it's kind of identifying this concessions area, which also, kind of houses some more of these service-based elements, at the centralized spine. Much of this being more utilitarian functions to one provide, storage and the restroom requirements for the actual splash pad. And then finally, the more intimate, community patio space that kind of views the park area to the west. And in this case being, that closer proximity to the playgrounds, the splash pads, these smaller, flexible community meeting spaces that would house both, the senior programs, as well as, the potential for rentals for small family gatherings and so forth.
And so our priority here is to leave none of the grant dollars on the table, right? We want to make sure that we utilize this grant funding because we got it and we don't want to give it back. So Matthew's put together a project phasing that's going to help us be able to do that.
Yeah, and just kind of, you know, on the top of the line, you kind of have more of the project schedule. A lot of this is kind of set, you know, obviously certain items have more extensive lead times and so forth. In general, you know, starting at the beginning of the year, it's approximately a 6 to 7 month design and engineering and documentation phase. That's overlapped by a few month period of bidding and procurement, in which case, you know, certain elements would be ordered, you know, sooner than other ones. You know, one thing in the construction industry is one item that still has supply chain constraints is medium voltage electrical equipment is looking at more than a 15-month lead time. So that particular aspect of it needs to be figured out sooner, and then it almost kind of dictates when your construction time frame could happen. The construction time frame on this building's a conservative estimate is about 12 months. You know, maybe that turns to 11 and so forth, which is kind of shown here in the red. And on the bottom end of this schedule, I guess the key things to look at are, you know, the 3 grants and the Michigan Community Enhancement Grant having a 9/30/2025 spending deadline. So the thought is that would be allocated more towards some of the soft cost, as well as some of that initial site work that needs to happen on there. And then from there, we have the Spark grant and the HUD grant, which is a little more flexible on the particular things, and that would be kind of spaced out throughout the duration of the construction.
Yeah, and so Matthew just kind of hit on some of the deadlines. One of the biggest ones is that Spark grant deadline of obligating the funds. So our kind of next steps, you know, we're presenting you tonight the concept and the budget report. Over the next few weeks, we're going to put on the street an RFP for a design build for the building. We're going to actually have to do this because of timing and knowing what kind of funding is available. We're going to have to basically bid it, do 2 RFPs. One for the full-scale recreation facility as presented tonight, provided that the funding becomes available. And then the other is a building that will satisfy the smaller scale things that are currently grant funded, that we want to make sure, again, that we don't leave any funding on the table. So that's going to go on the street real soon here, and with our goal of coming back to you guys to have a firm for the design build before the end of the year, so we have those grant funds obligated. So with that, we are happy to answer any questions. We have pretty much most of the design team from the city staff present, so again, big shout out to them. And I do want to make mention that community engagement on this has been amazing and has been what has created, I think, a much better project than we would have had we have just done it on our own. Every time we went out to the community, we got better feedback. We improved the project based on that. We did 2 surveys that had over 150 respondents. We did 4 community meetings. The community has been really, really helpful on designing this project. This is not our project, this is the community's project.
Up to council.
Madam Mayor, I have one thing, and this may be to either of you, I'm not sure. So if, I know we need to do the 2 RFPs. I'm wondering if for the second RFP, for the smaller version, assuming an adverse result in November, then can we ensure that that RFP and the design build is, can we ensure that the design is set in such a way, the RFP is written in such a way, that we could essentially expand that facility conveniently and easily if that were to become available in the future? If we were to take another run at potential funding sources, and we had the opportunity to expand the rec center, I want to make sure that what we build, if we're building the smaller format version, is not built in such a way that it would be incredibly onerous to expand the facility in terms of its infrastructure and both horizontal and vertical infrastructure.
Right, and absolutely, that's an excellent question, excellent point to be made, and that is, that's our intention, is that, I mean, if you look at the way the building is sited, it's done kind of intentionally that way.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, most of the required elements, that being the storage for the splash pad, the exterior-oriented restrooms, and the concessions element, they're all kind of in that blocking there. And, obviously, depending on, the $2.1 million funding, we could probably, extend that to a degree to have a smaller outdoor covered space, et cetera, which won't be wasted kind of going forward.
Through the chair, I'm a little confused why we have to have 2 RFPs. The Spark grant is the only one that requires an obligation deadline, and that's the end of this year. So we've already said how we're going to use the funds, so that's the obligation. And the earliest any funds have to be used is the community enhancement grant that has to be spent by September of 2025. So I'm a little confused why we have to have 2 RFPs before, within the next month or 2.
Now, that's a fair question. Just because we've identified how we're going to use the funds doesn't meet the federal government's requirement of obligation. We need to have the project under contract. So either it's the smaller building or the larger building has to be under contract before the end of this year for it to be considered obligated to meet the federal guidelines. So that's the intention of doing the 2 RFPs. There simply wouldn't be enough time pending the election.
I don't think there's going to be enough time for that either, because if you're going to put an RFP, are you giving them 60 days to respond? How many days are you giving to respond?
We've been going about 3-4 weeks.
Okay, so roughly a month. Okay. And then it has to go through the committee for review, and then it has to come to council for approval.
Yeah, we're working on a very...
Technically, before December, sorry, I'm looking to see what the last December meeting is. That would be the 16th.
Yep.
Is the last city council meeting.
Yeah, that is our drop dead deadline.
Okay. Thank you.
Through the chair, I have a quick question about the size of the event space. And this may be something for Lorena, if you're interested. Our summer activities and our parks programming, how much of it is going to be able to transition into that park space or into that event space versus being in the curling club arena?
So I don't have the exact size of the curling club arena space right now, but I believe that the event space can hold about 200.
It's 3,000 square foot, 200 people, and that's standard height, 15 square foot. Boat-based dance floors or DJ space.
Does that change for children? They require less space?
Which is also larger than any of the one rooms that we had prior at Kulik as well. So we feel like we'll be able to program that space. Again, with the curling club, it's seasonal, so we only have it during the summertime, but our summer camp is expanding. And so this will give us an opportunity to actually have more programmable space for that as well.
Would this allow us to get the Boys and Girls Club back in there where they were playing basketball at Kulik before?
I have spoken to them. One of their head persons in this region actually came to one of the first design meetings. And there's a possibility, but I mean, they have I would have to reach out to them. And really, we would have to talk and see what the capacity is and how many rooms will be able to work. Because I will say, with the Boys and Girls Club, even when we had Kulik, we had to limit the amount of people as opposed to some of their other locations, amount of children.
Right.
Any other questions, comments from council?
There's no decision that we have to make tonight?
No, there isn't.
I just want to say I'm the liaison for the Parks and Recs, and I just want to reiterate what Aaron already said, but the Parks and Rec Board is on board and super excited about this, and a couple of them are in the audience tonight as well to show their support. So, thank you.
And thank you as well on behalf of the Accessibility and Inclusion Commission. I know Alan and the team were very appreciative of just being in the loop on this. Just like I said earlier with DDA, our focus on inclusion and accessibility is what sets us apart from a lot of communities, and I just really appreciate that.
And thank you to the task force. I mean, you're all doing a great job, and I'm excited for what's to come, and I understand the importance of planning, because we need to have a plan in place. And I hope we're able to utilize it. Thank you for all your hard work.
Thank you.
All right, well, that was our one and only agenda item. So now we are moving on to call to council, and I'm going to defer to the city manager, the Assistant City Manager, James, for department head updates.
All right, so we're going to start with the DDA and their executive director.
Hello again. Event season is sort of over, but it's never over in Ferndale, so we still rocking through the rest of September and into October, have plenty of things on the horizon. This Friday is Ferndale High School's homecoming parade, so that will be going down 9 Mile and over to Pinecrest. We will have a selfie station or like photo backdrop set up for folks if you want to come and take advantage of that. So we're looking to just give, again, people more opportunities to take great pictures in downtown Ferndale. Then Saturday on the 28th is Michigan Downtown Day. This is the 5th annual instance of this in the state of Michigan. Downtowns across the state will be having lots of activities, and Ferndale is setting the bar pretty high for ourselves. You can find more information on our website at downtownferndale.com. There's also a plug for it on the events page, the calendar on the ferndalemi.gov page as well. But things that you can expect to see are some opportunities to visit the firehouse on Livernois, the Historical Society also on Livernois. We're going to have little heart stickers, buttons, swag, things that you can collect throughout downtown. We've got a variety of businesses that are offering promotions and some pop-up markets as well on this Saturday the 28th. So just check out our website. We have plenty of things that you can do in downtown Ferndale this Saturday. Coming up in the month of October, we have on, excuse me, I need my notes here, an outdoor movie night that we'll be hosting on October 18th. That will be a Friday, I believe, yes. And then also trick-or-treating will be in downtown Ferndale on October 26th. That is a Saturday. So just mark your calendars for those. We'll be sharing more details in our social media and webpage coming soon. Thank you.
Okay, next our city clerk, Dean.
Just letting you all know that we are nearly complete getting our absentee ballots sent out for the November 5th election. We have about 54 to 5,500 of those. Our goal is to have them out by Thursday. Assuming everything goes well, we'll have them out by Wednesday. So we're pretty close to being done with that. I just want a big thanks, send a big thanks to the 4 or 5 individuals who came in and helped us out getting all those ballots packaged up. They are done one at a time. It's a very long and tedious and monotonous process, so just a big thanks to those folks. But that's all I have here.
All right, and then Riley Coleman, our communications specialist.
Hi, good evening, Mayor and Council. I am pleased to report that the 14th edition of our Checking In with Ferndale quarterly print newsletter is here. On the cover is Reggie. He is one of our election inspectors, and he's posing with our new and improved election signs. So we're very excited about that. We do have a lot of information about the upcoming election, how to vote, where to vote, and the city manager did give some more context as to some of what's going to be on the ballot. Some important fall things, we do have leaf pickup season coming up, so there is a leaf pickup map and schedule as well as how to rake your leaves to the curb. I will not steal Parks and Rec's thunder, but we do have a fall festival coming up, so there's a lot of information there. The pumpkin plop is returning, so if you have any pumpkins, you can compost them at some of our parks. We also have property tax information, zoning, police and fire, holiday safety, and all of our amazing events that are coming up between now and the end of the year. So we have copies here at the library at Incubizo, and then there's also a virtual copy online as well. So if you have any questions or need an extra copy, I'm here for you. Thank you.
Thank you.
And then our DPW Director, Jim Jameson.
Thank you. I just want to give a quick update on GLOW. So we had that's the Get the Let Out program that Ferndale was doing in conjunction with the EPA. We had a booth for Funky Ferndale where we just promoted our self-reporting tool, gave out some schedule updates to residents, searched for residents' homes by address and let them know if we had information or not. EPA helped us, and they distributed some filter information. Eagle was there. They provided info on how to lower lead at the home. Pretty important stuff. Thanks to everyone that stopped by. The second door knock campaign begins tomorrow. We thankfully have 18 people on board from EPA. We expect to meet, well, maybe not meet, but knock on 3,000 doors. We hope to meet 3,000 people, but that's probably impossible. Hopefully it'll be very successful. We hope to get about 1,000 internal verifications, and again, those help us to prioritize our program. Last and pretty notably, Camborne Street closed. Camborne Street is closed at the railroad tracks for construction. CN Rail is replacing all of the panels in between the work that we did through the local paving program, and that includes the sidewalks that were just replaced through that program, so the crossing will be greatly improved, and we're excited about that. It should reopen Thursday afternoon, and that's it.
And a quick shout out to Jim. He was out at Funky Ferndale for most of the weekend there, doing a great job engaging with residents as they came by. So that was really good to see.
Thank you.
Parks and Recreation, Lorena Wheeler with a whole nice list of good stuff.
All right, I have a few exciting announcements. Like Riley mentioned, our Ferndale Fall Festival, the 14th annual Ferndale Fall Festival, will be on October 5th, that's Saturday, from 11 to 3 p.m. Registration is open, so if you register before, we have early registration with a discounted price. So if you register between now and I believe next Friday, don't quote me, but it's all on our website. Feel free to register, spread the word, bring friends. We are looking for volunteers. It's a great opportunity for especially our youth and high schoolers to get volunteer hours and build their resume. So we are looking for several volunteers. Please contact us if you are interested. Our Wilson Park Improvement Project is coming to a close. We're very excited about all the improvements we have there, from a new play structure to a new parking lot and improved ADA accessibility within our parking lot and throughout the parks, ADA walking paths, bike racks, and other amenities, drinking fountain, benches. We have a new pavilion, which is the last thing that's being installed. We actually have our ribbon cutting ceremony scheduled for October 13th, so please put that in your calendar. But we're really excited and really proud of how this park has come and the development has come out throughout the summer.
Secondly, our Martin Road Park Improvement Project has started. If you've driven by there recently, you saw some of the excavation taking place. The inline hiking rink is gone, and we're well on our way with that project. So we'll keep you updated as we go along. In addition, we have, moving on to sports, we have our basketball registration opening on September 30th. So anybody interested in the girls' basketball team or the co-ed team, Little Eagles, feel free to register starting as early as September 30th. Lastly, we are getting a new smart replacement van this week. So we're scheduled to pick it up this week, and we're very excited about that, to replace the old van. We'll have a lot more accessibility with this van, and we're just excited to have something nice and fresh and shiny and new. Thank you.
Sorry, through the chair. This is the van, not the bus.
Correct, not the new 26-passenger bus. This is the old van.
Okay, thank you.
Now coming up to the podium, we have Chief Robinson from the Fire Department.
So I only have one thing to add. We will be having our fire department open house October 13th. So I know Parks and Rec mentioned their ribbon cutting for Martin Road Park that same day. So people come out, go to Martin Road Park, do the ribbon cutting, and then come on over to the fire station. So this is our second open house we've had. Last year was the first one, I think it was in 25 years. And this year we'll be doing extrication, so Jaws of Life, cutting up a car, showing how we rescue people out of the car. We will be teaching hands-only CPR, so if you ever want to learn that. And something else that's kind of exciting, we bought the fire blanks people may have seen that you can use in homes instead of fire extinguishers. So we'll be doing a demonstration teaching people how to use the fire blankets and giving away some free to anybody who's there to learn how to use them. I think we have 300, so the first 300 people would be able to get a fire blanket if you come and learn how to use it. So a lot of other fun activities, the fire safety trailer and stuff, so come on out. So make it just a fun Ferndale day, both on the same side of town, so it's easy. So we'll be at Fire Station 2, go to Martin Road Park, come visit us, have a great time.
What was that time again, Chief?
I'm going to change it to accommodate so we don't conflict with Parks and Rec. We were planning 1 to 3. I'm going to talk to my staff about moving it to 2 to 4. That way people aren't conflicted between two activities. We want to accommodate so people can attend both.
And then lastly, our city attorney, Dan Christ, is asked to speak.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I just wanted to follow up on the public comment regarding the resident who was concerned about trains blocking intersections. There is a state statute that regulates that particular issue. Unfortunately, the federal courts determined that that's preempted under the Federal Highway Safety Act. So that's an area that is not subject to being enforced by the city.
That is it from the staff side. Thank you, Mayor.
I am moving on to council, and I will start to my right today.
I have nothing further tonight.
I have nothing.
All right.
Nothing.
Don't say it.
I have something.
All right.
So everybody's, I know, has been on tenterhooks for a year and a half, 2 years now about the new zoning ordinance. The new zoning ordinance is coming into completion, and so next Wednesday from 5 to 6:30 p.m. at Incubizo, there will be a zoning open house. The city staff, zoning and planning staff will be there. I'll be there. I'm sure a couple of my colleagues here on the council will likely swing by. And that'll be an opportunity for residents to ask questions, engage, understand what's happening with the new zoning ordinance. After that, immediately after that, we'll complete at Incubizo, and then we'll all wander over here to City Hall, where the City Council and the Planning Commission will have a joint meeting at 7 p.m. And we will, in that joint meeting, be discussing and reviewing specific topics and specific parts of the zoning ordinance as it currently stands. So a little bit of a working session between the council and the planning commission. So if you're excited by zoning, and who isn't, I would strongly encourage you to swing by that event next week. There will be opportunities for you to also reach out to us at any time. So you can email your council members, email the city manager's office, email Roger Caruso, the head of CED. If you have any questions or concerns, they'll route those questions to the right people. It's a big change. This is a complete overhaul of our zoning ordinance all at once. So I encourage residents to review it, read it, educate yourself about it, and then determine what questions and concerns you have so that we can meet them before we adopt this. That's all I have.
Okay. So a couple things. I want to first announce that the Ferndale Board of Education there will be a candidate forum for the Ferndale Board of Education to be hosted Monday, September 30th, 7 p.m. at Ferndale Lower Elementary. If you don't know that address, it's 23501 Rosewood Oak Park. Opportunity to meet the candidates, ask questions, hear their proposals, and prepare to vote. They do recommend that you register for it, and the website that you register is actionnetwork.org/events/Ferndale Candidate Forum. So that is, and that time will be 7 p.m. I also want to just thank FAB for their flash mob that we participated in at the art fair this Saturday. It was a lot of fun to be in it and kind of dance around with the residents, and I think it was fun. I hope we're able to do it again and a lot more participation, but I'm just applauding the FAB for their creative ways to kind of bring some fun and recognition to downtown Ferndale, so that was pretty great. Just a couple things that I want to share is that a few years ago, I was appointed to the Michigan Municipal League Board of Trustees. That time has since come, I've since come to an end, but I'm pleased to say that I was nominated for a full term at the Michigan Municipal League Board of Trustees. So I will have a full term to be able to still advocate on behalf of Ferndale and bring ideas and things back and information that I learned from the Board of Trustees. So I'm excited about that. We were at, most of council was at the Michigan Municipal League convention on Mackinac Island, and I just wanted to share some information about an event that I was moderating. It was modular housing. There was a developer who was there talking about how they actually build the housing in another location, and it's sort of brought to the location where we want the housing to be, and really placed emphasis on the decrease in supplies and the cost to do it that way. So it was almost like how he described it as Legos. You kind of build what you need to build in one area and then transport it to where it is going to be called home. So I thought that was interesting, and Councilmember Pollica attended that outbreak session with me. So just I was really interested about that. And also, I don't do this a lot, but I'm doing it this time. The Michigan Municipal League had their first women's elected intensive training, with more to come, and I hope that more of us council members are able to join. But I did graduate from that program. It was very exciting. I was focused on ways in which to enhance our leadership in terms of community engagement, finance, speaking with the media, and things of that sort. So it was a really productive Michigan Municipal League convention, and I hope that the council members who were able to attend also found it as productive as well. But with that being said, this meeting adjourned at 8:52. Thank you.